Westwood One presents America at Night. Here's your host, McGraw Milhaven.
Thanks for staying up late with us. We got lots to get to. Let's get right to it. Coming up in hour number 2, Theo Lewis Clark, his Hollywood exec for a day. We're also going to do a deep dive into a great historic movie. We'll tell you all about that. And now the audience can play along with Hollywood exec for a day. We'll talk about that in hour number 2. Also, Thomas Richards has written a book called The Unfinished Business of 1776. We'll get into some of the Declaration of Independence and what our founding fathers were thinking. So a little history lesson, hour number 2. Hour number 1, we're going to talk farms today. We're going to talk to a farmer a little bit later on. But first, he is the director of Food and Agriculture Policy Research Institute at the University of Missouri. He's a former USDA Chief Economist, Dr. Seth Meyer. Welcome to America at Night. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I know a lot of people want to put their own political spin on the farmer. A lot of people are gloom and doom. But overall, give us a take. Give us the pulse of the farmer. How is the farmer doing? Is it dire straits? Are they in trouble? Where are we with the farm world?
Yeah, no, I think it depends very much within the farm sector about what we're talking about. In particular, if we look at some of the livestock producers, maybe if you're a cow-calf guy in Texas or producing fed cattle someplace, you're probably doing okay. Beef cattle are pretty good. But I think the main story that we see along the way is row crop producers, folks producing wheat and corn and rice and sorghum and soybeans. Those folks are having a real tough time. Margins are really, really tight for them.
Let's talk about the beef. Let's talk about the good. Beef prices, cattle prices are through the roof. Why is that? And obviously supply and demand, but why is there so few cattle? And Americans clearly love their beef. They're still buying it even with these high prices.
So I think you put your finger right on one of the important issues there, which is demand has been really robust. I think one really great thing about the beef sector is they've produced a really nice product that people like. Quality's great. Consumers have decided that they're willing to pay up, right? I think the other aspect of that is we are seeing in a contraction phase of the cattle cycle. It's important to remember you don't create new cattle overnight. It takes quite a long time. And I think if you're talking about at least some of the contraction that we see today, it goes all the way back to the 22-23 drought, folks deciding whether they're going to contract their heifer herd, so whether they're going to keep females in order to breed them. And I think you go all the way back to then and you look at drought conditions, and that leads us to a lot fewer cattle now to be slaughtered. So we have both an issue of fewer supplies of animals, no live animals coming across the border from Mexico because of New World screwworm concerns. And then you have people just really like their beef because it's a good quality product.
Now, let's talk about this, because if the beef prices are so high, the cattle rancher says, man, I'm going to sell my herd. I'm getting top dollar, right? That also leads to it because it's harder to regrow the herd if you keep selling all the beef to the market, right?
Yeah, I think absolutely. You take the old saying, a bird in the hand's worth two in the bush. Well, think about that right now. My choice is I can retain that heifer. Instead of selling her to be fed out, I can retain her. I can think about, okay, can I get a stream of income off of her in 3 or 4 or 5 years? And that's a pretty tough decision considering where prices are today. Maybe I'm better off just selling her into the market.
Let's talk about corn prices, because we've apparently had a bumper crop, right? One of the best crops we've ever had?
Yeah, record large crop, maybe 17 billion bushels worth of grain. So north of that, a very large corn crop.
And so that's good news, but it's also bad news.
Well, I think part of it is, we come into the fall. A lot of the farmers who produce corn also produce soybeans. They're making some choices. Should we put a little more soybean in the ground? Should we put a little more corn in the ground or other crops? And I think that there was some concern about either soybean competition or maybe trade disruptions. And we put a lot of corn in the ground. We have had one of the largest acreages of corn that we'd seen in a long time and a record high yield. That's a lot of production. And so when you get those levels of production, you're going to see some pressure on prices. But it isn't just corn. I think if we look around at all the primary crops, prices are not great.
Well, and that leads me to what you often talk about, Dr. Seth Meyer, professor and director of food and agricultural policy research at the University of Missouri. You talk about the new normal for the farmer and for the farm economy. What do you mean by that?
Well, maybe not necessarily a new normal, but I think we go through these shocks. I mean, let's think back about over the last 20 years, we've had 3 of these price spikes. What happens is we have some multiple shocks in the market, prices jump, input prices jump. So not only does the price of what the farmer gets for their crop goes up, but so does all the costs for the inputs that they buy. Then when we see some correction in the market and those crop prices fall, the input prices tend to be much more sticky, and that gets them a very narrow margin, and that tends to hang around until we get the next shock. So we saw it about 2007. We saw it about 2012. We saw it in 2020 and into 2022 with the war with Ukraine push commodity prices up again. Well, what happens is those prices correct, but input prices may remain sticky and those farmers get squeezed. So, this maybe not necessarily normal, but we tend to stick into these. There isn't an immediate catalyst that you can envision which pushes us out of this low price, low profit environment.
How much of the tariffs and the perceived fight we have with Canada is a direct result and then ends up with some high input costs with fertilizer and feed and some of those other things?
So actually, I mean, we get there are 3 components of fertilizer. One is potash, which we get primarily from Canada, but also with Canada, products which are Canadian still come in at little to no tariff. So it isn't necessarily Canada that has added much to concern about, say, farm inputs, not Canada directly. And we did for a while have some additional tariffs on other country when it came to some phosphate products for fertilizer, MAP and DAP. Those tariffs were removed. We had trade friction with China that really slowed some of the sales of our commodities, which we export a lot of, like soybeans. It appears that there's been at least some agreement that the Chinese will take some of our soybean products, which has at least offered some export support, but there's still a lot of product around the world.
Dr. Seth Meyer, hold that thought. Lots more to get to. I want to talk about the family farmer and the future of family farms, debit and credit and banks and everything else. That is the Director of Food and Agriculture Policy at the University of Missouri. He is also the Chief Economist for the USDA at one point, Dr. Seth Meyer. We'll get back to more with him in just a moment. Let me tell you about these statements and products that I'm about to talk about have not been evaluated by the FDA, and they're not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or condition. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Active Liver from New Nordic. Why is that? Because if you like the holidays like I did, I'm not just talking about the cookies. We're talking about the food, the sweets, the alcohol. Sure, all of it was great, but it takes a toll on your liver. And that's why if you've made a resolution in 2026 to get healthy, you need to find out more about Active Liver from New Nordic. You see, Active Liver is available in easy-to-take tablets and delicious gummies, and it's an important part of your daily wellness routine to keep your body detoxed and feeling best. Now, since I started taking Active Liver from New Nordic, I've noticed less digestion issues, better energy, and I feel healthier and less worn down. Take my advice. Start the new year off right. We're starting into the month of February. Time to get healthy. Active Liver from New Nordic. It can be found in Amazon, newnordicusa.com, or pick up some today at your local CVS, ShopRite, Meyer Grocery, and now Active Liver is available at Wegmans. New year, new you, New Nordic.
Live from coast to coast, this is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. You're listening to America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
Dr. Seth Meyer is our guest. He is a professor and the director of the Food and Agricultural Policy Research Institute at the University of Missouri, MIZ, doctor. Let's talk anecdotally. I'm hearing reading some stories anecdotally that some farmers are having a hard time paying off their debts, having a hard time paying off their loans. Banks are starting to either not loan, recall some of the loans. Anecdotally, I'm hearing that. What are you seeing? What are the numbers telling you?
So I think you're right. We've had several years where there really hasn't been a good crop in order to make a positive profit here. So they've spent their time burning down some of their cash reserves. And that's why I was saying when you look forward, there doesn't look like a lot of great options for crops that'll make you some money and get you in a better financial position for the next year. All of those crops are pretty much break even or maybe below break even in terms of their cost of production.
They're sitting there now, right, trying to figure out what they want to do this spring coming up. Is this next year going to be a make or break year for the farmers, and how bad could it get?
So I think you're right. You go when you come off these peaks. So in 2022 you made some good money. In 23 maybe you didn't do as well, but then you start having a few years and you really eat into those cash reserves. And I think if you talk to your farmer guest next, you say, hey, is there any crop out there for which you can plant and you can make a good profit this year? Probably not. And so I really think when you start to have these years where profitability is either low or negative for multiple years in a row, you're right. You burn through cash reserve. The bank starts to decide, do I want to keep lending you this money? Can you make it this year? And I think that becomes more tough over time.
So let's talk solar fields, wind fields, because some farmers are getting a knock on the door saying, hey, you want to lease your land to me for the next 20 years so I can put a solar field on it? A lot of farmers are taking them up on that just because that's guaranteed income and they don't have to put up with all this.
Yeah, and so I got the economist answer for you, which is how do you blame somebody that looks around and says, what crop can I plant that's going to make me a living, right? And they can't come up with anything except solar fields. So I'm as an economist, I'm very sympathetic that, hey, I've got this really expensive asset out there. What's going to provide for me and my family? And so from an emotional standpoint, I hate to see solar panels put on very nice, productive land. It just rubs me the wrong way, but I can't fault the individual producer.
Yeah. What about China buying up farmland? I know that's a major issue. We talked about it last night. Sell out to the highest bidder, and if it's a Chinese company, so be it. I mean, how much of that is happening?
Well, I mean, I think that there is some purchases of Chinese land. I don't think they're not so large as to really cause a squeeze here on our ability to control our own land. Absolutely, I think we always got to be looking out for our ag land. But I'll go back to if there's a security issue, if the land is next to something important, sure, there ought to be a lot of scrutiny. In some way, again, I'll go back to if somebody wants to build housing on it, if somebody wants to build a solar panels on it, a wind farm, in the current environment, I again, hate to see black dirt turned into pavement, but I don't blame producers for making those choices.
You're at the University of Missouri. Do you see the next generation wanting to be farmers?
Yeah, so I think it's tough, right? I mean, you think about the capital involved in this, and we talk about this a lot within the sector, which is you look at the assets these people have, and a farmer, talk to the farmer that you got coming up next. What has he got wrapped up in his land? What has he got wrapped up in his machinery? And he's got hundreds of thousands or more dollars wrapped up in all of this, more millions when it comes to land, and yet he's trying to extract a living out of that, maybe not a grand living either. And you think about a new farmer and the assets involved and necessary to make a living at farming, and I think it's tough. I think it's tough.
I got about 3 minutes left, Professor. If you could wave a magic wand, what would you like to see? What would you like Congress to do? What would you like Washington to do? What would you like to see happen?
So part of my job is we advise Congress, and so I don't get involved in telling them what policies they should do. I usually get involved and tell them, here's your options. Here's the kind of things that you can do. Or, hey, you guys have decided you want to do something and you've given me some options. Here's how they affect the sector. But what I will tell you is I don't think there's a short-term policy magic wand to be waved. I don't think that there's something that the government can come in and do at the moment where they can intervene and make a significant policy change that changes this impact overnight, that changes the current situation overnight. We can talk about small incremental things, maybe some things on biofuel policy that could be positive for producers, other things along these lines. But I don't think that that's the immediate catalyst that gets us out of the current situation. We won't know what the next spark is that sends prices higher. But I think that if you're going to talk policy changes or changes in the sector, it's hard to do that overnight.
Yeah. Real quick, what about ethanol? I know some farmers personally who are sort of hoping that ethanol takes it to the next level. Is that still a thing? Is ethanol still a viable option?
So I think it is one of the policy levers that's available out there in the short run, both ethanol and biodiesel. And this is something where, yeah, you could add a little bit of demand and provide a little bit of a more, suck up a little bit of that extra grain and those oil seeds in the short run. I don't think it's a complete game changer in 1 year, but you think back about the volume of crops we really relied on export markets, say in the early 2000s. Ethanol came along and sucked up some of the excess corn we had in the market. So certainly those types of outlets are policy positives. Again, don't change the fundamentals overnight, but the policies have to be put in place to support the sector longer run.
Dr. Seth Meyer, who is a professor and director of the Food and Agricultural Policy Research Institute and clearly has the ear of Congress at the University of Missouri. He also served as the USDA Chief Economist. Doctor, great insights. Thank you very much for your insights. Be safe, and thanks for checking in.
Thank you, sir.
You got it. Stay right there. When we come back, we're going to talk to a farmer. We're going to talk to a farmer from Tennessee who is a third-generation farmer who is living the life on the farm, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We'll hear straight from him coming up here in just a moment. And then next hour, Theo Lewis Clark, Hollywood exec for a day. And hour number 3, oh, yeah. You want to hear my take on Don Lemon? I'll give you my take on Don Lemon, but you got to stick around for hour number 3. America at Night. Stay right there. Back in a moment.
Coming to you from the heart of the nation, this is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. This is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
All right, we're going to talk to a gentleman, a third-generation farmer who has been on the front lines for years. He grows corn, he grows wheat, he grows soybean. He is based in Kenton, Tennessee, and he operates a large-scale family farm along with his wife. Todd Littleton, welcome to America at Night. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you having me on tonight.
All right. Your primary focus is corn, soybeans, and wheat. How'd the crop come in?
We had a really good corn crop this year, McGraw. We got dry middle of the summer. We went from About the 19th of July all the way to September without any rainfall. We think it was 64 5 days there. We had really hot temperatures and no water, so the soybean crop didn't finish up too good. That really hurt our yields. But other than that, we had a good corn crop, just didn't make any beans.
Did you explain to people how this all works? And I don't really know it myself, but when do you sell it? Did you sell it at the right time? Are you glad how you sold it? Did you hold on to it? How'd you take it to market?
We typically sell a lot of our crop. We forward what's called forward contracting. This time of the year, I would typically be looking to go ahead and price my crop out in the fall. I don't have on-farm storage. Some people do, some people don't. So I typically deliver my grain out of the field when I'm harvesting to a local elevator. I have an elevator here close to my home base, so we carry it out of the field. But I typically try to have a lot of my crop priced to cover expenses. But the problem was this past year, crops never got high enough to cover expenses, so it's you were selling for a loss, just trying to mitigate the losses, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand. If you're a builder and you build a house and the price of nails goes up, that means you just raise the price of the house to make a profit. With the farm, your soybean prices go down for market, but your seed prices go up, your fertilizer prices go up. Whatever they're offering at the market, that's what you got to take. So you don't really set the price. Talk about that for a moment, because there are a lot of farmers are talking about the input costs, and it costs more to put it in the ground than it does to sell it. Talk about that for a moment.
Yes, sir. We have a lot of things go into putting a crop in the ground. The main three inputs are seed, chemical, and fertilizer. That's the big three. When you hear of cost of production, that's usually the first three you deal with. Well, right now, fertilizer is skyrocketing higher due to a lot of factors. Seed is high, chemicals are high, so you have to cover those expenses as well as a lot of other inputs such as diesel that go in our machinery, labor, our living expenses. We have to live like everybody else. I got to buy groceries too. So all of that comes out of bushels out of our crop. And so when you're taking in less than what you're putting out, you're losing money. And most businesses can't survive very long like that. And this is about the third year in a row that our costs have just increased exponentially. Tractor tires are up 100%, 200% what they were 3-4 years ago. Any kind of parts, diesel fuel, oil, lots of things we have to get a crop in the ground and growing.
Talk about your labor for a moment. Do you have day laborers? Do you have has the immigration crackdown hurt you at all?
It hasn't me personally. There are a lot of my neighbors around who are having to use a program called H-2A to get workers to help. I'm blessed to have help here, local guys that help me on my farm, but that is something I feel like we're going to have to look at in the future because we can't find any help and we can't provide all the benefits that people have to survive. When we're not making any money ourselves, it's hard for me to pay somebody else. That's just another expense that's got to come out of our bushels that is hard to cover. Yeah.
Todd, you're looking at, it's now February, you're probably talking about what you're going to do this spring in terms of crops. What are your thoughts as you get ready for this next planting season? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are you going to plant?
For the last 2 or 3 days, my dad and I have been sitting at the desk crunching numbers, trying to find something in the green. Our cost of production is just, it's not looking favorable again for the 26 crop. It's just, I'm looking here. The average cost put in an acre of corn is going to be $600 on my farm, and corn's bringing about $450 right now. So I've got to make an exponentially high yield just to break even again. And there's just a lot of family farms in a lot of trouble. And I think people don't understand when there's only percent of our U.S. population that are involved in production agriculture, and we've been blessed in this country to be able to walk across the street and get whatever we want to eat at any store at any time of the day or night. And when enough of us go out of business, that's not going to be the case. And I think we take that for granted here as Americans.
Todd, talk for a moment about the emotional side of this and the mental health side of it, because that's a topic that a lot of farmers don't like to talk about it. They're rough and tough. They are rub a little dirt on it. We'll get through it no matter what happens. We will carry on. But the mental side of it, how hard is it for some of these farmers? And talk about the mental side of it, because it's a real thing.
Oh, it's very real, and it's a very stressful thing to know that for one instance, I'm third generation. So my granddad started this farm. My dad was able to farm with him, and now I've been farming with my dad. So the weight of that is on my shoulders. I don't want to be the generation that lets it go or puts it in financial ruin. So I've got that always in the back of my mind. Your own, my own personal family, I don't want to make decisions that's going to be detrimental to them as far as us being in a bad financial position. You just have a lot of, you can't get away from it. It's around the clock. You're thinking, what can I do to make this better, and how can I stop the bleeding, and try to make some money. And that's what we got to try to do.
I don't want to necessarily pick your bank account, but we hearing anecdotally, and we had a professor on last segment who said that it's very real, but banks are starting to worry about the loans that they've given out to farmers. Banks are starting to call in loans. Banks are starting to cut off credit. What are you hearing about the banks and the loan programs and some of those types of things?
Well, we have to have them as a partner to operate. We go in this time of year and sit down with our loan officer and say, here it is. We got to do the best we can do to put another crop in. And fortunately here in my part of the world, they're doing all they can do to work with us. They understand agriculture. They understand the nature of what we're doing. But it comes a point, you got a farm paid for over here, and you can't pay back what it took for you to operate last year. So they use that for collateral to get you to go again. Well, you can only do that so many times. And, they start getting to where when they don't have anything they can hold on to, there's going to be some serious hard conversations that they have to have.
Todd Littleton, a third-generation farmer in Tennessee. Corn, soybeans, and wheat are your primary crops. What about cattle? What about chickens? What about pigs, hogs? Go ahead.
I also grow poultry for Tyson Foods. I have 2 poultry houses. I grow pullets for them. That's been a blessing for my family in this rough stretch of years. It has been some income that I contract grow for them, so they pay me a set salary a year to do that. It's not tied to a commodity market, and that's out of my control. And so that's been a blessing for me. Cattle guys have enjoyed a good market this year. Cattle has been historically high. I think our cattle herd's as small as it's ever been in this country, and so that's been a favorable thing for the cattle guys. I don't have any cattle, but I do have poultry for Tyson.
Todd, if you could wave a magic wand and fix something, tell Congress something, tell Washington something, get them to do something, what would you want them to do, if anything?
We need more markets for our goods. We can't depend on China. We've got to move elsewhere. We need to use E15 year-round. We've got corn piled everywhere, according to USDA. So why not use it? That should be a bipartisan issue that both sides of the aisle can agree on. That's good for the environment. We've got the corn. It's renewable. I don't understand why we can't get that across the finish line. And we just need places to go with our products, either here at home. We need to use more of them here, and we need to send them other places. We're growing way more crop than we need. We're the best producers in the world, always have been, always will be, and we just need a market to send our goods.
Yeah. Are you seeing, there's been a lot of talk about China and the tariff wars we were having with China. They didn't buy American soybeans the longest time. Now they are supposed to be buying soybeans. Is the soybean market back to the levels it were, or where are we with soybeans?
No, they're not back to the levels they need to be by any means. They are up some from what they were, but nothing dramatic. We saw a 30-40 cent rally off the news that China was going to buy the 12 billion bushels. But of course they've postponed that, and you just can't trust it. Don't seem like what they say they're going to do. They're just a bad actor, and so that's why I say we need to move. We need to broaden our market and not be so dependent on what China does. Because I just don't think we can trust them.
Yeah. Todd, last couple of moments with you. We thank you for your candor. We thank you for your time. I think it's important to hear from a frontline farmer who lives this every single day, because I think a lot of people don't understand the plight of the farmer. Doesn't get enough attention. What would you want somebody who doesn't know much about farming? What do you want them to know about the plight of the farmers, and what do you want them to think about?
I just want them to understand when they walk in a grocery store and they get that roast, or they get that piece of chicken, or they get that pound of bacon, that there was a lot of work and a lot of stress and strife to get that there. It doesn't just appear there. And we have a lot of things that are out of our control. And we love to grow food, and we love to feed this country, but we have to have the support of the American public to get their attention in Washington, to know that we've got to have some changes. Things have got to get better for us, and we'll keep feeding you, but we've got to have help to do it. And I love what we do, wouldn't do anything else. But just remember that food doesn't just appear there. Do you
is there a possibility you won't grow anything this spring if it costs you $600 and you can only make $450 out of an acre? Is there a possibility you'll just skip this year?
Well, the $450 is per bushel. You would hope you would make the $600 back, but most of our average yields wouldn't be much profit above the $600. But no, we're in the business to farm. As long as I can get my bank to agree with me that we need to farm, I'm going to farm. So that's just in our blood. That's what we do. That's what we want to do. And we just want to make a living. And we don't want government handouts. We want money in our crop. But when the government does things that affects our bottom line, they have to step in and help us, or we're going to have a lot of farms in a lot of trouble.
Todd Littleton, you don't speak for the farmer, but a lot of farmers have your similar views?
Yes, they do. They do.
Yeah.
A lot of farmers are, they just want to make a living, and they just want to do what we do best, and that's feed this country. And I want to thank you for drawing light to our plight. And a lot of people in the public don't understand what we're dealing with. They don't understand the amount of money we're having to borrow to put a crop in, and they just take it for granted. And I appreciate folks like you getting the word out. And anytime I can help you with anything that arises, you let me know.
Todd Littleton from Western Tennessee. It's corn, it's soybeans, and wheat, and some poultry, apparently, for Tyson Foods. Todd, thank you very much for staying up late with us. Good luck. I'll say a prayer or two, keep you in my thoughts, and stay strong, and thanks for telling your story.
Greatly appreciate it.
Todd Littleton with us on the state of the farm community as a third-generation farmer. America at Night. Back in a moment.
From the heart of America, this is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. Coming to you from the heart of the nation, this is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
All right, we're going to do it. We're about done for hour number one. I'd like to thank our guests. Got a point of view from an economist when it comes to farms and from a farmer who was living the life on the front lines in Tennessee. Hey, coming up next hour, we're going to talk to a man who has written a book about the unfinished business of 1776. And then, of course, Theo Lewis Clark is going to be joining us. And we're doing something a little bit different today. We're going to give us a little slack here because we're going to try something new. Now, Theo Lewis Clark, we know, Hollywood exec for a day. He has three movies. Two of them are real. One of them is from his creative mind. We have to figure out which one's real, which one's fake. Well, tonight, we're going to have the audience play along. And we're going to set up a poll. And when the time comes, we're going to ask you to vote on whether it's movie 1, movie 2, or movie 3. And we'll see if Theo Lewis Clark can stump you as well. Also, we're going to take a deep dive into one of the great movies of all time, Forrest Gump. He's going to tell us the 7 top things you don't know about Forrest Gump, one of the great movies of all time, Forrest Gump. And it's one of those movies where anytime you know someone who runs into 4 or 5 different people or who's always around when something's happening, you're like, who are you, Forrest Gump? How do you know that guy? What are you, Forrest Gump? So it's become part of the lexicon. So we'll do all of that coming up in hour number 2. And then, of course, phone calls in hour number 3. And we've gotten a lot of texts tonight, people wanting to know what I think of Don Lemon getting arrested. Oh, have I got a take on Don Lemon getting arrested? Stay right there. The whole major news organizations have been talking about this Don Lemon thing all day long. And I haven't heard anybody have my take. So we'll do that in hour number 3. Stay right there. We are just getting started on a Friday night. Our executive director is Alex Hinton, who's in charge of the poll tonight. So we'll see if that thing works. Our engineer tonight is Richard Good. I'm McGraw Milhaven, and this is America at Night on Westwood One.
Westwood One presents America at Night. Here's your host, McGraw Milhaven.
Hey, welcome back. Hour number 2. We love talking history, and we love talking America because it's something that keeps us all together, and I just love talking about it. I'm hosting the show, so guess what? I get to talk about it from time to time. Welcome back, America at Night. The text line is open, 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. This half hour, we're going to talk to a man who has written a book called The Unfinished Business of 1776, Why the American Revolution Never Ended. Thomas Richards, thanks for joining us, published by The New Press. Thanks for joining America at Night.
Thanks for having me, McGraw.
Let's talk about the premise of the book. Explain the title, The Unfinished Business of 1776. What are you trying to do?
So the revolution, I think Americans think of the revolution as sometimes just the war itself, Washington and the soldiers defeating the British. But if we look kind of bigger and we think about those words in the Declaration of Independence about everyone having the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the revolution meant a lot more to many more Americans than just Washington and his army. And so when the revolution ends, most people are thrilled the British are gone, but they're looking for more. What does independence mean to them? What does liberty mean to them? What do natural rights mean to them? And so things like gender equality, racial equality, economic power, starting new nations. All these things are questions that remain kind of up in the air. And so the book goes up through the Civil War and Reconstruction as Americans think about, and argue about what the revolution meant and what they should have a right to do as Americans.
So we could probably have that argument today, because I think a lot of people still don't know where we came from and watch the news and everything else. And I think people would, a primer, it should have gone right through the end of January 2026 when you think about it, Thomas.
I think you're right. The conclusion does bring it up close to the present, although most of it is on the early part. I think the revolution has been such a, it looms so large because it can mean so many things to so many different people. And really, because it's a revolution, there's things to, for everyone from left, right, and center to grab a hold of and say, that's what I think America stands for.
Well, that's sort of the genius and the horror of it all, right? I mean, in 1776 or in 1780 or the 1800s, there was no internet. There was no national TV broadcast or radio broadcast to help explain what's in the Constitution. It was printed in newspapers, I'm sure, but to teach that, to explain natural rights and the rights of the free press and religion and guns and all these other, it's a Herculean task when you think about it.
Absolutely, and when you think about you mentioned the Constitution. Probably half of Americans would have voted against the Constitution or did vote against the Constitution, and it only passes. It's very ratified so narrowly, and even the people who ratify it, who support it, have some issues with it. This all makes sense. This is no knock on the Constitution. It was a compromise among so many different, most of them brilliant people. But there's no surprise that when the Constitution's ratified and the government is set up, that people are thinking, well, this isn't what I voted for, or this is partially what I voted for, or, this is, it's so, there's so many different ideas about what the country could be. Kind of everything is up in the air, is up in the air.
Yeah. The big one, obviously, slavery. Talk about that in your book and how you handled that, because, right, I mean, that's the original sin when this all gets started.
Slavery is talked about from the very beginning of the revolution, and it's clear the founding fathers understand, even Thomas Jefferson, he writes these words about life and liberty, and he's owning slaves. And this is kind of the classic, he embodies the original sin of the United States. They understand the inconsistency. They understand when they're talking about freedom and liberty and people are enslaved by them and in their country. At the same time, so there's a kind of hypocrisy here, but at the same time, enslaved people themselves and abolitionists and some of the more anti-slavery founding fathers, this is the moment where they say, well, we got to put our money where our mouth is and actually start to, look for freedom, free slaves. And the revolution is when slavery is abolished or slowly abolished in the North. It's kind of Southerners, patriot Southerners, double down on slavery. In the South, enslaved people mostly fight for the British because they promise freedom. But it's in the North where the revolution is, that liberty is, that promise is made good for enslaved people. By the early 1800s, most of the North are free states, and that was not the case before the revolution.
Yeah. Thomas Richards, the book is The Unfinished Business of 1776. In doing your research, I'm sure there were a lot of times where you thought it was X and it turned out to be Y. Give me one of those times where your mind was blown going back into the 1700s.
I think when we look back on the revolution, we take our ideas of the present and we put them on that moment. So we think about things like racial equality, gender equality, these things that are very much out there, in our public sphere that people are talking about and fighting about. But if you go back to the 1780s and 1790s, there are some things that we don't even think about anymore, or if we think about it, it's very fringe. So, for example, the revolution creates a new nation. Many Americans, after the revolution ends, well, if they created one new nation, why can't they just create another one? So one of my chapters looks at Americans who move west to California, particularly the Mormons who go to Utah, and they're saying, well, why can't we do exactly what the founding fathers did? Starting a country is it's an American tradition, and so some of my chapters kind of fall into this, traditional things we argue about the revolution all the time, and some, like founding a new nation, are completely out of nowhere. They are of a different world, and so it's the merging of kind of presentist things and really strange things that I think made the research so interesting.
What people and every historian you ever talk to, and any class you're ever in, or any professor you ever talk to, they always say, we know how history ended, right? We know that we stayed together, but that was never necessarily the course that we were on, and it didn't just happen by accident, right? I mean, there's a whole lot of offshoots, and we could have gone many other different directions, and we could be 50 different states today, but because of a couple of things along the way, we ended up as one country.
That's absolutely right. When the revolution ends, when we think about revolutions in general, it is a moment of promise, of possibility, of everything is on the table. And most of those things, to most people, seem incredibly realistic. So maybe slavery can end across the United States. Maybe women can get the right to vote in many states. Maybe we can have some sort of economic equality where everyone gets land for free. All of these things are on the table. And some are pulled back. Sometimes they're doubled down. It is this moment. I mean, that's one of the things that makes it so interesting, but also, I think, so inspiring. It's not the results of the American Revolution. It is that singular moment where people are thinking of what's possible, what could happen next. And the answer is almost anything.
Yeah. It's interesting why the revolution never ended, the unfinished business of 1776, right? The revolution was just the start. A lot of people think it was the end. That was just the start. Then how do you build a country? We'll come back, talk more with Thomas Richards, who's written the brand new book, The Unfinished Business of 1776. America at Night, back in a moment.
America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. This is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
Hey, Theo Lewis Clark, Hollywood exec for a day, coming up next segment. Right now, though, we're talking with Thomas Richards, who has written the book, The Unfinished Business of 1776. Thomas Richards, you broke, as you were saying last segment, you broke the book into a number of chapters, sort of dissecting these American citizens who've sort of been lost to history for a lot of them. Tell me about Judith Sargent, who was a women's rights advocate.
She's a women's rights advocate from New England, and she writes, fascinating tracts arguing that if women could get more education, they would be equal to men. She hints at the possibility of the right to vote. She is just she's kind of mirroring Mary Wollstonecraft in England in terms of pushing for women's rights. She is also kind of writing at a moment where women are actually voting in the early United States, in the state of New Jersey. So roughly 10% of voters in certain New Jersey elections are women because of a quirk in the New Jersey Constitution that says inhabitants and doesn't specify gender. And women just start going. And this is this moment where men kind of let this happen. Women contributed to the revolution. They were forming Daughters of Liberty associations. They were leading boycotts. They were braving all the things that men did during the Revolutionary War. And so for about 20 years, women are voting in New Jersey. And Judith Sargent Murray is writing. She's not really writing about this, but she's writing in this moment where women's rights seems more possible than what eventually happens.
I mean, it must have been, people's heads must have exploded to even have somebody even broach that subject, right?
What was really interesting to me was how men at the time, at least early on, are not freaking out like you would think they would be, because it's such an anomaly. There was nowhere else really in the world where this is happening, but because, I mean, that's the point of the larger American Revolution. There's massive changes going on. In New Jersey in particular, there's a lot of, it is the kind of the center of revolutionary violence that women have to bear during this brutal conflict. And it almost is like this acceptance of men that they deserve this. They were part of the revolution just like men were. Eventually, this is pulled back. In 1807, there is a law passed that specifies only men will vote. But it was looking at these poll lists and seeing woman after woman vote, and many would vote together, which suggests that they're kind of coming together to the polls as women, recognizing themselves. Polls are usually in taverns and bars, very kind of masculine scenes. So they're coming in kind of solidarity. It was fascinating to research, and it was fascinating to see how little pushback there was, at least at first.
Yeah. Tell me about this enslaved rebel, Gabriel.
So Gabriel is an enslaved man who tries to launch a massive slave rebellion in 1800. He lived outside Richmond. What makes him so interesting is that he's using, just like women were arguing that they should have the right to vote because of the American Revolution, because of the possibilities and the promises, he's doing the same thing for slavery. He's saying, the revolution promised liberty, and I'm going to do just that. He plans to put a flag up over Richmond that says liberty or death. And this is coming from the same state as Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me death. One of his followers, when they all get caught, he's put on the stand and he says, we are only doing what we are Washington if Washington was captured by the British. We are not traitors. We're only traitors because we lost. And so it is a revolutionary moment. He fails, mostly because of a rainstorm. They have to cancel their plans. But just like the women in New Jersey are building on the American Revolution, so is Gabriel. He is part of that world.
It's interesting when you look at it from the point of view of the book, or your whole concept of the book, which is the unfinished business of 1776. Right, you're sort of showing the seeds of the 21st century. Right, you're showing where the seeds were planted for the women's right to vote, for the Civil War. It's really interesting that these unheard of at the time, but this is how it all ended up.
Yes. So for women's suffrage, the first women's rights activists in the 1840s, they start talking, they look into New Jersey and think, well, what was happening here? And they find out, this was completely accepted. And they mention it and they talk about it. Remarkably, Gabriel is brought up in the WPA recordings, the slave recordings that the FDR administration did during the New Deal. In the 1930s, Gabriel still talked about. So there is a long legacy of these actors, doing things, and Americans later kind of grabbing a hold of them. There's this fascinating moment in Kentucky where they try to redistribute lands, and there's this push for economic equality. And a New Dealer, someone who's working for the New Deal in the 1930s, writes a book talking about the New Deal in Kentucky in the 1820s. So it carries on.
Richard Thomas Thomas Richards is our guest. He's a PhD in history from Temple. He's the author of a number of books, including this one, where it is called The Unfinished Business of 1776. It ends at the Civil War. Any energy to do after the Civil War? Because I could think you could probably find a whole bunch of stuff from the 1860s to now that all full of anecdotes and people who were sort of lost to history.
There's certainly possibility for a volume 2. I think after Reconstruction, how Americans talk about the revolution is much more, maybe they're doing things that are still revolutionary, but the way they talk about the revolution is that it is now part of the past. The Civil War and Reconstruction kind of solve and, if not solve, at least settle what the United States is. And so there's there's a new story that comes out after the Civil War. There's a reason that many Americans call the Civil War the Second American Revolution. So the story in some senses restarts.
Yeah, that's a great point, right? I mean, there is sort of before the Civil War and after the Civil War. That has certainly been, an interesting, right? Everything changed after the Civil War. Thomas Richards, the book is The Unfinished Business of 1776. The publisher is The New Press. Thank you for putting up with me. I had to reschedule once or twice, so I apologize, but thank you for putting up with me. Good luck with the book, and thanks for checking in.
Thanks for having me, bro. This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
You got it. The Unfinished Business of 1776, Why the American Revolution Never Ended. The New Press is the publisher, and our guest, Thomas Richards, who is a professor of history and a lover of history and an author, and had a chance to check in with him. Stay right there. America at Night continues when Theo Lewis Clark, our Friday night game. And we're asking the audience to participate. Alex has got the poll up, ready to go. We'll explain all that after this quick break. America at Night, back in a moment.
You're listening to America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. Coming to you from the heart of the nation, this is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
All right, next hour is open phones, but this hour, though, it's the game we play every Friday. It's called Hollywood Executive for a Day. And, of course, the man, the myth, the legend, Theo Lewis Clark. Are you there, Theo?
Absolutely.
All right, here's how the game...
and accounted for, my friend.
There we go. Tonight, we're going to change it up a little bit. And now we're going to have Alex, who is our executive director. He is going to have to pick... Richard Good is going to have to pick. I'm going to have to pick. Mm-hmm. And tonight we are going to invoke the audience. So the audience gets to vote as well. This is just like Love Connection, where we're going to poll the audience. And you get to vote as a member of the audience. 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-2-McGraw. That's the text line. It's also the phone numbers, but that's the number to text. And so Theo Lewis Clark is going to give us three projects. Two of them are real. One of them is fake, and we're going to have to determine which two are real and which one is fake. And so if you're in the audience and you want to participate, if you think whichever one you think is fake, you text that number, 1, 2, or 3, to the text line. We have the poll set up, and it'll give us the poll numbers, and we'll see if you can stump Alex, if you can stump Richard, and you can stump me. Now, we're going to give the three. We're going to talk about, I guess, the movie you've picked tonight to do a deep dive on is Forrest Gump. And after that, then we'll give the audience a chance to text in and vote, and then we'll close the voting. And apparently the feds are going to then take the polling machines afterwards to make sure this is a legit election. But 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. All right, Theo, give us your three entries for tonight.
Okay, let's do it. And first of all, shout out to everybody listening all over America. I got my friend Kara listening from San Antonio. I got Tracy listening from California. Got my boy Tony listening from Jacksonville. So thank you guys. Now listen, let's go. Number one, during a delayed flight, she makes friends with a nice man, not knowing he's a homeless man, allowed on board with several others as part of a relocation program. Now, he reveals to her that really he's the guardian of a vintage baseball pennant that's tied to a 70-year-old gambling scandal. Or is it number two? A spacecraft travels to a distant planet to find out what happened to a group of scientists sent there decades earlier, only to find two people left, one scientist and his daughter who was born there. Now, the captain and his crew, they're met by a robot who, while escorting them to the scientist's home, he describes in detail the executions of all the other scientists, but he never says why or by whom. Or is it number 3? A wealthy socialite falls off her mega yacht, hits her head, and gets amnesia. Now, while in the hospital, she comes across a carpenter that she previously mistreated during her home renovation. He takes advantage of her memory loss to get revenge for his unpaid work by convincing her that she's his wife and the mother of his 4 rowdy sons. So think about it, guys. Think about it, audience. Is it the delayed flight, the relocation homeless guy guarding the vintage baseball pennant? Is it the spacecraft guy? They travel. They find out, oh, where's all these scientists? Only one left and a daughter. Why is the robot telling everybody how everybody died? Or it's the wealthy socialite, gets amnesia. Now the carpenter's like, where's my money? I know how I can get my money back. I'll just make sure she thinks I'm her husband, and she's the mom of my 4 sons.
All
Okay.
right. There we go. Hold on a
Everybody's
second.
seeing.
Now, hold on a second. Hold on a second. Now, those are the 3.
Those are
One,
the
2,
3.
is it number 1? Is it number 2 or number 3? Now, Alex is thinking. Richard's thinking. The audience, now's your chance to text in 1-844-2-McGraw. 1-844-2-McGraw. If you think it's number 1, text in number 1. If you think it's number 2, text in number 2. Or if you think the fake movie is number 3, text in number 3, or the letter 3, or the number 3, or THREE, and we will go from there. All right, now, in the few moments we have before, as we are tallying the votes, the voting has begun. Tell us a little bit about what's the movie you've decided to do a deep dive on?
Forrest Gump, Tom Hanks' best movie he ever made.
Okay.
Forrest Gump. Okay, so the first fun fact, this is a deep dive. So remember when Forrest Gump, he's boarding the bus, right? And the kids are like, this seat is taken, this seat is taken, can't sit here. Well, there's a little redhead girl that just shakes her head vigorously, no. She doesn't say this seat is taken, but she gives them the emphatic no.
Right.
That's Elizabeth Hanks. That's Tom Hanks' daughter, his real daughter.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely. Number 2, remember, they turned their big old house into a boarding house, right? And Elvis Presley is one of the guys that stays there. Like, oh, he's a nice man. He had a guitar. That was Elvis Presley, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The guy doing the voice of Elvis Presley, that's Kurt Russell.
Oh, okay.
Kurt Russell is doing the voice, and he sounds like a real good Elvis Presley.
Kurt Russell is doing Elvis Presley in Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump. Absolutely. Right. So number 3, you want to know who turned down the role of Forrest Gump?
Who?
John Travolta, Bill Murray, and Chevy Chase all said no.
Chevy Chase?
Chase, Bill Murray, and John Travolta were all offered the role. No audition necessary. They were offered the role. They all 3 laughed at it and said, this is ridiculous. No, thank you.
Chevy, how does Chevy Chase get that role? I mean, I
Chevy
guess
Chase
Travolta
was great in Saturday Night Live. He was an imbecile in Saturday Night Live. He did a lot of physical comedy.
I get it. But I mean, the movie is, I don't know, we can only see Tom Hanks in it now.
We only see Tom Hanks in it now.
Yeah.
But think about it. John Travolta, Bill Murray, Chevy Chase. Okay, now his friend Bubba Gump, remember Benjamin Bubba Blue? It was played by a guy named Michael T. Williamson. He's played in Con Air and Heat and Ali. Guess who turned down that role?
Who's that?
Dave Chappelle and Ice Cube.
Really?
They were both offered the role, and they, like John Travolta, Bill Murray, and Chevy Chase, they laughed at it. They said, ridiculous. Absolutely not.
Wow.
A lot of good actors turn down great roles, so it happens all the time.
Yeah. No, and I could see somebody saying this movie's going to be a joke. He's travels through history as this sort of mentally
he was
disabled
at every
character.
Iconic moment, Alabama State. He's the John F. Kennedy shooting and all the monument. No, they were looking at it like, no, that's hokey. They could have been on Hollywood Exec for a day. You guys would have got stumped. And
All right,
speaking of that, I stumped you guys 2 weekends in a row. Now I'm going to stump the audience. Okay,
right,
then the last one is, this is my best one. So Tom Hanks didn't get a salary for Forrest Gump. You know why? He
Why?
believed in the movie so much, he said, I'll just take percentage points. Now, this is at a time where lead actors were getting $10 to $15 million a picture. Guess how much his percentage points garnered him? $45 million.
$45 million.
$45 million, because he believed in the film so much, he said, I'll just take the percentage points on the back end. So he made 3 times what the leading actor would get for a salary for a film.
So I've saw him talk about this at one point, and he said that the scenes where he's running across America, that the studio didn't want to pay for that, and Robert Zemeckis went to Tom Hanks and said, "Look, let's put up our own money. Let's put up our own money, and we'll get points on the back end." And so Tom Hanks said yes. And they put the money up for the running scenes. They did the running scenes. They got the points.
$1.5 million. Yep.
Okay.
And the running scenes were done by his brother. His brother, Jim, did the running scenes because he could mimic Tom's running style.
Yeah.
So they just put a beard on him and put his brother out there. It was a family affair.
Ice Cube and Dave Chappelle.
Bubba Gump, they both said, no, thank you. I don't want to be Bubba Gump and making, sauteed shrimp and barbecue shrimp and, all that shrimp. There's like 18 shrimps. You know what I mean? Shrimp on the bar.
It was a great movie. It was a great movie. It was a very heartfelt, wonderful movie. So, yeah, there
if
you
you're
go.
flicking through the channels and you land on Forrest Gump, you're going to stop for a little while, no doubt.
All right. It's all right.
Okay,
so that's our deep dive. That's our deep dive on Forrest Gump. Okay. So now back to Hollywood Exec for a day. Alex, are you there?
I am here. Yes.
All right.
I'm ready.
Quickly.
Bring it.
Hold on, Theo. Give us a quick rundown here. Give us the 3 one more time.
You want me to do read them all, or just do it a little encapsulated?
Do the abridged version.
Okay, the abridged version. Number 1. So you got the lady who befriends the guy on a delayed flight. There's a whole bunch of homeless people on there. They're part of a relocation program. One of them, though, is actually guarding, this vintage baseball pennant that's tied to this 70-year-old gambling scandal. Or you got number 2, spacecraft travels to a distant planet. They're looking for the scientists who were sent there decades earlier. They only find 2 people, one scientist and the daughter who's born there. They got a robot that shows, he's showing the captain, hey, this is where the scientists live. But as he's showing them there, he's saying, hey, all these scientists were executed, but he doesn't tell them who and by whom and why. Or is it 3, the wealthy socialite, she hits her head, she's got amnesia, she didn't pay the dude that was renovating her house. He sees her in the hospital, it's like, oh, I get my get back, no problem. I'll make sure she thinks I'm her husband, and she's the mom of my 4 rowdy sons.
All right.
So
there you go. That's the 3. That's the 3. Alex, what do you got?
So I'm going to go with movie number 1. I think number 1 is the is the fake one. How a pennant is tied to a gambling scandal, I do not know. So that's why I'm thinking it's that one.
People bet on baseball, dude.
That is true. All right, Richard, what do you got?
I'm gonna have to go with number 1 as well. I feel like this sounds like a Korean drama.
Okay. All right. All right. Now, look, this is interesting. Alex picks number 1. Richard's got number 1. The audience has voted. The audience overwhelmingly thinks number 1 is bogus. Number 1 is the fake one. However, so we'll see here. I thought it was number 1 until the very end, and then I think number 2. Number 2 is the fake movie that's coming out of the creative mind of Theo Lewis Clark. So everybody, the audience, Alex and Richard think it's number 1. I think it's number 2.
So that means nobody picked number 3. The wealthy socialite falls off her mega yacht, hits her head, gets amnesia while in the hospital. She comes across the carpenter she previously mistreated, during her home renovation, he takes advantage of her memory loss to get revenge for his unpaid work by convincing her that she's his wife and the mother of his 4 rowdy sons. That's a real movie, 1987. It's called Overboard. It stars Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell, the voice of Elvis Presley in Forrest Gump.
I heard that Tom Hanks turned down that role.
Yeah, right. So you guys are right about that. Okay, so is it McGraw being wrong by himself, or is it the audience and Alex and Richard being right for the first time in 3 weeks, mind you, because I stumped you guys 2 weeks in a row. Let's let everybody remember that. Okay, a spacecraft travels to a distant planet to find out what happened to a group of scientists sent there decades earlier, only to find 2 people left, one scientist and his daughter, who was born there. The captain and his crew met by a robot, and while escorting them to the scientist's home, describes in detail the executions of all the other scientists, but he never says why or by whom. McGraw, you're wrong by yourself. That's a movie, 1956, called Forbidden, starring Leslie Nielsen of Airplane fame, which means Alex and Richard redeemed themselves. The audience is right out of the box for the first week. During a delayed flight, she makes friends with a nice man, not knowing he's a homeless man, allowed on board with several others as part of a relocation program. He reveals to her that, really, he is the guardian of a vintage baseball pennant tied to a 70-year-old gambling scandal. That's in Theo's world, and it's called Outside Bet. Get it? Homeless, outside, bet, gambling. Outside bet, baby.
Actually, I like that idea of a movie. They should make that movie. That's a good little baseball movie.
What are you talking about, Alex? I don't know how you think that the pennant can be tied to gambling. You threw everybody off. You made the audience guess. Richard was not going to guess.
I like that movie.
I blame you.
I like that idea of a movie.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Theo Lewis Clark, that's how you do television or Hollywood exec for a day with a little bit of a movie spin on it. All right. Good stuff.
Hey, listen, and you know what? We'll deep dive classic movies every week, okay?
Classic movies every week and Hollywood exec for a day. Theo Lewis Clark, thanks for checking in. Have a good night.
Hey, you too now. Thank you, guys.
You got it. That's how you play Hollywood exec for a day. The audience, man. Right out of the gate, the audience saw right through Theo Lewis Clark. Overwhelmingly, 62% said that number one was the fake movie. So there you go. All right. America at Night. Back in a moment.
America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. This is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
All right, we are just about done here for hour number 2. The text line is officially open, and we've got a bunch of texts, and, we've got open phones next hour. Here's one from Florida. Now that Don Lemon is no longer a journalist, when he lost his job with CNN and nobody wanted to hire him, and he had no journalistic credentials, is an influencer now, and he was on tape conspiring to do this. Interesting. How about this one? Great radio show last night with the traveling guest who visited Kansas and the museums there. Glad he is going to be on every Thursday. I don't recall his name since I'm a new listener from Minnesota. Thanks for the great late night talk. So there you go. Checking in from Minneapolis, Minnesota. That was Bill Cleveland, Bill on the Road. That is every Thursday, and then we got Theo every Friday here on America at Night. Listen to this. Stay right there. We're going to take a break, top of the hour, and then we'll come back with open phones. And I have a take on Don Lemon. Now, I've been talking about this all night. I haven't mentioned what my take is, but I'm going to have a take on Don Lemon tonight. And I'm sure somebody somewhere in the media said the same thing I'm going to say, but I haven't heard it. I've heard the outrage on this side and on that side, but I have a take on Don Lemon that I think is unique and a little more nuanced. However, you have to wait for hour number 3 to hear it. 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. Stay right there. My take on Don Lemon, and then we can talk about Don Lemon getting arrested. Then we can talk about whether or not he is or is not a journalist, and we can talk about all of that coming up. Plus, go rogue on a Friday night. Who knows what's going to happen next hour? That's the fun of open phones and open texting. Stay right there. Our executive director is Alex Hinton. Our engineer tonight is Richard Good. I'm McGraw Milhaven, and this is America at Night on Westwood One.
Westwood One presents America at Night. Here's your host, McGraw Milhaven.
All right, let's get right to it. I know we got people waiting online, but I got to get this out. I got to get it out. I can't keep it in. 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. Let's go back a little ways, and let's remember a woman named Judith Miller. Judith Miller, a lot of people might forget the story of Judith Miller. She was a Pulitzer Prize-winning New York Times reporter, and she was given information by a confidential source. And the story was that Valerie Plame was a CIA operative, and she printed it. The government was not happy. And so they wanted to know who told her that Valerie Plame was a CIA operative. And she wouldn't do it. So the federal government took her to court. And the judge said, "You're going to tell us who gave you that information." And Judith Miller said, "No. I gave that source my word that I would not tell who gave me this information." And she refused to reveal her confidential source. And so what did the judge do? Judge threw her in jail. Stayed in jail for 85 days until her confidential source told her, "Okay, I release you from your word. You can tell whoever wants to know that I gave you the information on Valerie Plame." And then and only then did Judith Miller was released from jail, because she then told the judge what the judge wanted to know. But until then, she spent 85 days in jail, not revealing her source. That is a hero. I don't care what you think about Judith Miller and everything else she did. That takes guts. To stand there and say, "You tell me a secret. I believe you to be true. I'm giving you my word. I will not give up a confidential source." Whether you agree with confidential sources or not, she was a woman of her word. And when you jail journalists for not giving up a source, that's a dangerous game to play, right? It's an awful dangerous game to play. A lot of information comes from anonymous sources, from both sides. You don't like to use it, right? Nameless, faceless, right? Oh, it's not true. It's some fake person. It's fake news, whatever else. The truth is, you have to trust the journalist who is giving the person the confidential, right? The confidential protection, if you will. That's who you stand up for as a journalist. And I don't know if I'm a journalist. I'm a talk show host. I'm in the field. I'm in the game, I guess. I have used confidential sources. People have told me things. Hey, don't use my name, but. And I know it to be true. And I've gone on the radio and I've said, sources close to this, sources close to that. Now, it's nothing as earth-shattering as unveiling and exposing a CIA operative. But, it was big for the day for whatever story I was covering. I bring that up because I want to talk about Don Lemon. Now, I don't know if Don Lemon did anything or broke any law when he went into that church. I have no idea. I have a pretty good suspicion that he didn't. I have a pretty good suspicion that he was just sort of wanted to see what was going to go on and didn't do anything other than any other journalist would have done or any other influencer. And to be a journalist today, you don't have to work for CNN. One could argue that a journalist is anybody with a phone, anybody with a Twitter account, anybody with an Instagram account. Right? What's the difference between CNN and Don Lemon? CNN has their own website. Don Lemon uses Facebook.com, right, or whatever. So it's, dirty pool. I don't know what they're doing with the guy. But let's remember Don Lemon for just a second. Don Lemon was fired from CNN because there were a number of women who came out who said, well, he really was somewhat misogynistic. He said some inappropriate things, and by golly, we're not very comfortable working with this guy. Right? Also, remember, it was the Nikki Haley, right? The ambassador, Nikki Haley, when somehow he's the newly minted morning show host of CNN, and he comes out and he says, women in your prime, 50s women aren't in their prime. Women are in their prime in their 20s, 30s, maybe 40s. But women are not considered in their prime in their 50s. People looked at him like he had three heads. Wait, what are you talking about? The most inappropriate comments one could come up with. And then, of course, he was alleged to say some very inappropriate and sexist things to Soledad O'Brien, Kara Phillips, Nancy Gray, some of these others who came out and, said, hey, he said some, pretty sexist things. And he denied it, but ultimately it got too hot, and CNN fired him. Now, the man has made a small fortune as a CNN reporter and a CNN host, and he's sort of been marginalized, right? I mean, he's never really, once CNN fired him, he's never really been heard from again. So he hasn't gotten a second job. He hasn't gotten a third job. He hasn't, he didn't go to MSNBC. He didn't go to News Nation. He didn't go to Fox. He didn't go to, right? He's just sort of out there. And today he's being portrayed as a martyr. Oh, my God. The audacity to arrest Don Lemon, and all he was doing was fulfilling his constitutional duty. This is the best thing that's ever happened to Don Lemon. This clears the deck of his completely inappropriate and ridiculous comments about how women not being in their prime in their 50s, and they're really only in their prime in their 20s and 30s and maybe 40s. This clears him of his sexist comments, right? Billy Bush still's in timeout for doing nothing other than laughing at Trump's stupid jokes on that Access Hollywood video. But Don Lemon, he's now absolved of his sins because he's the martyr. I'm sorry. This is the best thing that ever happened to Don Lemon. Don Lemon was arrested. He was arraigned. He's now out on bail. And now he gets to play the martyr, and they're trying to silence the free press in this country. No, they're not. No, they're not. Trust me, when this is all said and done, Don Lemon is going to come out smelling like a rose, and he's going to get a $10 million TV contract with somebody, and there's Don Lemon all over it. Donald Trump did Don Lemon a favor by arresting him. Don't think for 1 second that Don Lemon somehow has taken a bullet for journalistic integrity. Judith Miller, who spent 85 days in jail not wanting to give up a confidential source, that's the hero. Don Lemon is Don Lemon. This is the best thing that ever could have happened to Don Lemon. Those are my thoughts on Don Lemon. And that's a take I haven't heard all day today. Should he have been arrested today? Probably not. It's a game. It's part of the game, right? It's part of the whole charade of this whole thing. But Don Lemon's watch. You watch. He's absolved from his ridiculous comments. He's absolved from his sexist comments that got him fired. And now he's a cause celeb. He's a martyr. And watch. Don Lemon will end up back on CNN, MSNBC, where He'll get a syndicated radio show out of the deal. What? They'll fire me and put Don Lemon in here. No, I'm kidding you. I hope. Let's go to the phones. Let's see. Who's been holding on the longest? Debbie in Canton, Ohio. Debbie, welcome to America at Night.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, McGraw.
Thank you, Debbie.
Have you ever been called Mac a lot?
I have been called many things, including Mac.
Yes. My last name used to be a Mac, so I was Mac all my life, and so I'm sorry. I don't mean it to be. It's to me, it's kind of cool, Mac. You know, hey yeah. Mac, totally right on the Don Lemon thing. Totally with you on that, for sure. Yeah, but I really wanted to call tonight because the first time I called to you, I retired back in 2018. And I started listening to the late night, and it was Jim Bohannon.
Right.
Fell in love with him so much. I listened all the time, and of course, Rich did a great job. But you sound so much like him, and I like your style. I love you. I just want to tell you, I try so much as I can to listen to you. And I enjoy your show very much, and I want you to keep going. That's all I want to say is welcome to my world.
Well,
okay?
Debbie, thank you very much for calling. Clearly, you're a brilliant, brilliant woman with such logic in your mind. I thank you for the phone call. I thank you for letting me know you're out there, and call back, text anytime.
I will. I'll try to when I can. All right.
You got it.
Love
Thank you very much. Okay. Hey, America at Night, stay right there. Lots more phone calls straight ahead. Also, the text line, 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. America at Night, back in a moment.
Join the conversation. Call 844-2-McGraw. America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. Happening in your world. Call 844-2-McGraw and be a part of America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
All right, that phone number is also the text line, 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. Gil in San Antonio, thanks for joining America at Night.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
I wanted to make a comment about immigration and your predecessor, Jim Bohannon.
Okay.
When President Biden opened up the borders and let in so many people, Jim Bohannon paraphrased Emma Lazarus. She's the one who wrote Colossus. That's the poem that's on the base of the Statue of Liberty. And Mr. Bohannon said, at this point, we're up to our asses with huddled masses. So,
okay.
I just thought you'd like that.
Yeah, Jim had a way with words, didn't he?
He sure did.
Yes, he did.
Okay, and I like the you have the text, and I've participated in one of your polls.
Oh,
and
good.
I'm getting pretty old, and my wife doesn't like me staying up this late. so I sometimes have to listen to your program on the podcast later, but I pretty well keep up. And
well, you tell your wife to listen right along with you, and the two of you can stay up late together. Gil, don't get into too much trouble staying up late with your wife. Thanks for the phone call. Let's go to I think we got Paul in Boise. Paul, welcome to America at Night. Paul, are you there? Paul fell asleep. Can we hear him? Can we hear him snoring? Crank it up a little bit. No, we can't. I thought I want to try and hear him snoring. I guess we can't hear him snoring. All right. I tried. Paul, wake up. Let's go to Robert in Charleston, South Carolina. Robert, welcome to America at Night.
Yes, I heard him snoring over here, by the way. I don't know. Maybe my technology is better, but I definitely heard him snoring.
Well, good. At least someone's enjoying the program.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the revolution in the United States was very complicated, actually. There were a lot of things going on, and most people don't realize how much was going on and how easily it could have tilted either way. For example, only 1/3 of the Americans wanted to, or the Americans to be, wanted to have the revolution. The other 2/3 really didn't care who was in control. They figured they were far enough away from Britain that it really didn't matter to that much anyhow. And they certainly didn't want to have freeze to death. They were sick, tired, and they just wanted to go home, and they were packed and ready to go. And George Washington didn't have any money. So when I was at the synagogue, I learned that the Jewish community was asked to come up with extra money. They said, we don't have much more money. Oh, it's all right. Well, give us another 400,000, and we'll do it. George Washington said. So okay, they got 400,000 together. They put it in a stagecoach, and then the British found out about it, and they were going to hijack the stagecoach. But before the stage got hijacked, George Washington grabbed the stagecoach first and got the $100,000. But what I didn't know at that time, and what I found out just recently, was that the money actually came from one guy. He was a Polish Jew, and his father taught him how to deal with princes and kings and stuff like that, and to lend money out, and he managed to get it back in a very, very clever and smart and genuine way. He managed to get money back, and that's how he became so successful. And his son came to America, and he was the one actually single-handedly, from what I understand, gave the money to make the revolution possible. And also, of course, there were other factors too. The French and the animosity between the French and the British helped a lot, and of course, between the Spanish and the British as well. Remember this: the British.
Hold on a second. Are you talking about Haman Solomon?
Yes, exactly.
Haman Solomon, a Polish-born Jewish immigrant and businessman.
I couldn't remember it, but I'm 99% sure that's what it was. I'm almost absolutely for sure. Yeah, that's what it was.
He raised $650,000, the equivalent to roughly $20 million today, to fund the war, often advancing his own money and never being fully repaid by the government. So a Polish-born Jewish immigrant lent America the money to finish the Revolutionary War. That is a great story. Robert, I got to go, but that is a great tidbit. I appreciate it. I'll do a little more research on it. America at Night. Stay right there. Back in a moment.
Coming to you from the heart of the nation, this is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. What's on your mind? Call 844-2-McGraw and be a part of America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
All right, it's open phones, 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. From the text line, you can text your comments, not just call, but you can text. You can text and then fall asleep like Paul in Boise did, 1-844-2-McGraw. Here's one from Chicago, Illinois. I can't wrap my head around the number of people who see Luigi Mangione as some hero for eliminating the CEO, killing those things, those killings, anyway, hard. It's kind of jumbled here. I apologize. But the guy, I'm with him. I can't wrap my head around the number of people who see Luigi Mangione as a hero for shooting that CEO of United Healthcare in the middle of the afternoon, right in the middle of the broad daylight on a street in New York. And Luigi Mangione is the hero. I mentioned this too. Did you notice the guy doesn't wear an orange jumpsuit? He wears like designer clothes. The guy, every time you see him in court, he's got his hands shackled, but he's wearing a nice sweater and a nice white collared shirt. It's bizarre. This whole hero worship of Luigi Mangione. I'm with this guy in Chicago. It doesn't make any sense. We got Catherine in Vancouver. Catherine, welcome to America at Night. Hello.
Hey, I have to segue my question to saying I'm asking this question all in fun, not as a downer.
Okay.
And somebody phoned in last week or this week, and you guys were talking about you playing baseball in college.
Yes.
College baseball.
Yes.
And right away, I don't know. It's just human. I don't know. I had a question in my head come up. What was your worst pitch that you ever threw out there? Like, was
the worst pitch? You mean the worst result that ever happened? Or,
yeah.
Or
like,
oh yeah.
Did you
well,
hurt
there's
somebody. Yeah, you know.
Catherine. First of all, it's only a 3-hour show, so it's not like I had one. I had numerous ones. I think every pitcher has got a. The funny thing. The funny thing about it is sort of like comedians who have a bad set, right? The funny sets where it's funny aren't funny, but the ones where it's a bad set and you tell the story about how a comedian bombed on stage, that's funny, right? So not being funny is funny. So
bloopers.
I would say there was the worst. I mean, the worst was we were playing in Iowa State. And if any of my teammates are listening, they've now just started laughing. But it was Iowa State. It was the 9th inning, and I'm pitching, and we've won the last 3 games, and we're up big. And I get the first 2 outs of the inning, and there's a ground ball to short, goes through the shortstop's legs. There's a fly ball to left field. The guy misses it. Right. So it's all of a sudden it's a comedy of errors. And then I throw this pitch and this guy jacked it. I mean, he juiced it. The ball landed 10 minutes ago. I mean, this thing was a bomb, and it was. So we lose the game on my pitch. So on the way back to the locker room, I turned to the left fielder. And I turned to him and I'm like, "You couldn't have caught that ball?" And he looks at me like, "What are you?" He goes, "What are you, insane?" I'd have to be, 45 feet tall to have caught that ball. So we had a laugh about it. But no, it was what it was. So I gave up my share of home runs along the way. And then, of course,
I appreciate it.
And then, of course, the other one is when you gave up a home run at Oklahoma State. They would play the song "You Dropped a Bomb on Me, Baby," which was never any fun. So that's why I don't really like Oklahoma State.
Yeah. Yeah.
Catherine, I thank you for the phone call.
Thank you.
You got it. Tony in Montreal, welcome to America at Night. Hello.
I was waiting. I don't know because we're an hour behind, and I was wondering what your take was on the arrest of our friend. Our CNN friend Don Lemon.
So I had a dissertation at the beginning of this hour, which if you're an hour behind, you'll listen to it next hour. But my point was, this is the best thing that ever happened to Don Lemon. This has now propelled him. This is
publicity. Bad publicity is great publicity.
This has now propelled him back into the national spotlight. Remember, he was fired. He was fired from CNN for derogatory, sexist, and or misogynistic comments. And
really?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
That's
and then
a mouthful there.
Yes. Well, you remember he said he was talking about Nikki Haley, and they were talking about women in their prime, and he goes, Nikki Haley's not in her prime. Women in their 20s, 30s, maybe 40s are in their prime, which every woman listening was like, could you be any dumber in your comments? Then it came out that he said some. Let me just but the bottom line is this. The bottom line is this. He's going to become a martyr, and he's going to get a $10 million paycheck out of this. He spent 15 minutes in jail. He's out on bail. It wasn't like he was defending a source and spent 85 days in jail because he wouldn't disclose Deep Throat, right? It's a marketing ploy, and the guy's going to come out making a whole lot of money out of this deal.
Listen, Don Lemon is one of the most unctuous people I have ever seen, a race baiter. He has benefited from race baiting people his entire career. But anybody that tells you, okay, that a woman past 40 is not in her prime has never dated a woman that is 50 or 60 like I have. And I can guarantee you they are way into their prime, much better than a 30-year-old or even a 28-year-old. So that's coming from an Italian boy in Montreal that loves all kinds of women, and I would never disparage any 50, 40-year-old or 60-year-old. I'm still waiting for the 70s. I'm not there yet, but we'll see. But, I guess that might be because he doesn't have the same choice that I have in his preferences. But let me tell you something. I saw that whole thing and I said, okay, this is a mock-up. This is a cartoon. Is this real? He was aching to get arrested, and he was aching to be at the top of the pile. And you know what? Your credibility was terrible, but now it's shot. And when I talk to you, I say it's hard to dislike you. You know what I'm saying, McGraw? When you come off and you say you're right, I'm wrong, or we're both right, or we're both wrong, that's civility. But he's not. He's just pushing agendas, and he got fired from his own air station or TV station where he had a great life. Life. And by the way, your gentleman that spoke on the revolution, fantastic. It was really an eye-opener for me because I studied 4 countries in my history degree, diplomatic history, and it was based on revolution. So the revolution, diplomatic history in your country, United States, Iran, Russia, and China. So you had the revolution 1812 in Russia. You had Mao Zedong in 49. So these are all great things that are still ongoing. Like you can ask yourself, it's not just the American Revolution that keeps going. All of those other countries still have their revolutions going. And Tony, you know what? Thanks for the education. It's great listening to you, man. You're the best.
Tony, thank you very much. Thanks for checking in, as always. All right, it's America at Night. Denny in St. Louis, you're on America at Night. Thanks for checking in. Denny?
Yeah.
Denny, turn down your radio.
Sorry.
You are on the air.
Sorry, I was listening.
You're good.
I was listening to ELO telephone line. Sorry.
That's all right.
What's going on, McGraw? Happy Friday. Yeah.
Happy Friday, Denny.
Did you see SLU scored 102 against Dayton?
I did not see that. Was that tonight?
Yeah. Hey, I wanted to talk to you.
I was busy doing the show.
About a new little weekly thing you could do.
What's that?
Since you're not very educated in the music industry,
yes.
Let's face it, you don't know much about music except country, and nobody really cares about country.
Hey, I was country before country was cool.
I was thinking maybe you could get Radio Rich on because his voice is like butter, and he's got stories to tell out the wazoo.
You think a little late night conversation with an old legendary FM DJ would be interesting? Talk about some old time music.
You got a little insight to getting that done.
I have his number. That is true. It's actually It's not a bad idea, Denny. Are you going? Are you leaving us? Are you leaving us?
No, I'm still here. I'm still here.
You know what?
Maybe you had other colors.
It's actually not a bad idea if you think about it. Sort of get some legendary DJs on and sort of talk about the old days, whether it's a Radio Rich in St. Louis or I know Cousin Brucey is still going strong, doing some things, right? I mean, that would be kind of fun to sort of do a little walk down memory lane and get some of the legendary DJs.
Rich also worked in L.A., so, that was kind of the hot spot back then in the late 70s, early 80s. So, it's just a thought.
Yeah, all right, good. Denny, back to
ELO. One last thing. I have a new quest. You know how much I love politics, so I'm going to stay away from politics tonight. Supertramp needs to get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. This is my new quest. Make it happen. Thank you, sir.
Supertramp. Hold on a second. Supertramp. What are they known for?
Are you kidding me? Take the Long Way Home.
Take the Long Way Home.
Lots of good stuff.
Was Supertramp the album of the waitress
Breakfast
on
in
the
America?
cover?
Yeah. Breakfast in America.
Yeah.
Got
Supertramp.
lots of great songs.
All right. Where are they from? Are they American or are they British? Are they
I believe
Canadian?
they're from England. I believe.
Okay. Supertramp.
I'm not positive.
Yeah.
Roger Hodgson's has got one of the best voices going. There's a song of him with an orchestra doing their overture song. It's amazing.
All right, there you go. Denny in St. Louis. Denny, thanks for checking in.
Have a great night. Bye.
You got it. All right. From the text line, Chevy Chase as Forrest Gump. What's next? Morgan Freeman declining the role of 007? Here's another one that says 2 is the real movie. You have to pick which one's the fake one. They're obviously listening an hour behind us. I feel like I'm in a time machine. People are texting in on last hour's show. Now that's a time machine. I'm going to make this request because I've been searching the internet and I can't find it. And maybe somebody else out there has it, right? We all know this is the Larry King, Jim Bohannon show. And I believe every Friday night, Larry King would play the Duke Ziebert song. I can't find that song anywhere. If anybody's got it, give us a call and text us and let us know because I would love to get my hands on that song and play that Duke Ziebert song because apparently every Friday night he would play this Duke Ziebert song. And when he would go to Duke Ziebert's when he was broadcasting from Washington, D.C. Now, what I did find? I did find the story that Larry King told. Must have been a legendary story because I heard it live when he told it. And I don't know if he told it numerous times or I don't know if he had it and he recorded it and he played it every once in a while. But I heard the story once on the radio. And it was, and I can't do it justice, and I'm not going to tell the whole story. But it was something along the lines of he was a young broadcaster, and he's playing the music, and he gets a phone call, and the lady says, I live near the radio station. Why don't you come over? And he says, well, I can't. And she says, put on an album and come on over. And so he puts on the album. And he leaves the studio and he walks across the street and meets the lady. And while he's having a cocktail with the lady, she obviously has the radio on and the song's playing. And all of a sudden the record skips and it's in the night, in the night, in the night. That story that Larry King told is online. That story's out there. I heard that the other day as I was going down a rabbit hole listening to the internet trying to find his song on Duke Ziebert's. But what a great, great story about then he had to rush back into the studio and he draws it out. It's a 25-minute story. It's fantastic. I can't do it justice. But that story is out there. But the Duke Ziebert jingle is not out there. So if anybody's got their hands on that thing or has a way to get a hold of it, I would love to hear that Duke Siebert jingle. Duke passed away. Larry King passed away. Right? Old school at its best. All right. America at Night. Back in a moment.
America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. Join the conversation. Call 844-2-McGraw. America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
Hey, get a load of this. I'll leave you with this. It was 48 years ago tonight, that Larry King started his Mutual Broadcasting System show, which ultimately led to this show tonight. That's right, on January 30th, which is today, 1978, Larry King took over the Mutual Broadcasting System show, and he held that spot until May 27th, 1994, when Jim Bohannon took over. His very first guest, Don Shula. And after 9 weeks of production of the show, they moved it to Crystal City, Virginia, near Washington, D.C. Originally, the program was carried by just 28 stations. It became a devoted audience who became known as Kingaholics. That I didn't know. Of course, Larry King had a long and interesting life. He was a chain-smoking, bad check writing gambler who turned into one of the great radio hosts of all time. So it was 48 years ago tonight, Larry King started this very radio show. Man, I'm doing a little research. Hey, show prep actually makes a lot of sense. Still trying to find that Duke Siebert audio. I would have loved to have played it tonight. I looked and looked and looked. I just couldn't find it. But if somebody out there's got it, great. And Alex is going to do a little deep dive into the archives. But right, who would have thought 48 years ago tonight, Larry King started this whole experiment, and we're still going strong. Still paying a ode to him and to Jim Bohannon. So it's an honor. And every single time we crack the mic here, we understand, we appreciate you, your time, the audience, the news, the entertainment value, the stations that carry us. It is truly, truly an honor of a lifetime to host this show. And that's going to do it for another week. So we thank you for listening. We thank you for calling in. And we'll be working hard for all next week and the weeks to come. But 48 years ago tonight, Larry King started this thing. So, Larry, thanks. You were the best. 184. Well, we're done. We got to go. Our executive director is Alex Hinton. Our engineer tonight is Richard Good. I'm McGraw Milhaven. And this is America at Night on Westwood One.